to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies for starting the meeting a little bit late. I was just running on slow this morning. Do we have anyone in the public who wishes to speak?
Jan Sudo for the record. Okay, so I wanted to start to talk about stopping building large houses in the wetlands. This is a subject that I already touched on the town board work session about 3 weeks ago. I understand now that there is a consensus in the town board to make the wetland setback 100 feet unqualified. Is that correct right now?
That's what's currently in the draft. Yes.
All right, so this is very positive development, and I'm happy that the board is taking that step to strengthen the environmental protection of the wetlands. There was some pushback on it from certain individuals. I don't know where that stands, but I'm happy to hear that town board is leaning towards 100 feet, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. 3 weeks ago, I spoke about the two areas that the town board was not which I thought the town board was not discussing, one was the banning practice of allowing large two-story houses in a wetland setback as long as those big houses follow the outline or footprint of the one-story ranches that those houses replace. The second was to review all CBA and planning board guidelines for permitting exceptions from town code and tightening them to make exceptions from the town code very difficult and really only applicable in exceptional circumstances, like legitimate hardships and so on. Not as a matter of routine, which was the practice in the past. Okay? There are many houses that have been recently built which are bypassing town code. I listed them 3 weeks ago. I'm going to list them again. Oak Tree Lane, Pandion Project, Gardeners Bay Drive House, north of Manhattan Line, Cartwright Road, and on and on and on. Okay, so we can see this year after year that there are more large houses built right in the wetlands. Okay, and this is really threatening the environment and character of the island. I don't think there's a lot of support for that in the public. Okay, so after I spoke 3 weeks ago, the draft wetlands legislation was made available to the public, and I found right in that wetlands regulation, new legislation, that there is a point called reconstruction, new construction with expansion upward or downward within footprint. Okay, the downward part is actually an expansion of what was in the old wetlands code. Okay, so in other words, now and there was a table on chapter 3 of this legislation, and the downward part is a new thing. So now we're going to be allowing digging of the basement in wetlands. That's what it sounds to me like. Okay.
And this is something that you should bring up when we have a public hearing on wetlands. We're still in the drafting stages.
Yeah.
It's back with the subcommittee to be looked at.
Right.
And so we will have a public hearing.
Yeah, I would like to chime on it this before the public hearing. Okay.
And we
Can I clarify a point though?
Yeah.
The old code was mute as to whether or not you needed a wetlands permit to dig a foundation. So it didn't address it at all. So you didn't have to get a permit to do it. You could just do it through a building permit. So by adding it in, we actually require that it go for a wetlands permit and be evaluated. So that's why it was added in.
Okay, that's great, but the point is that this legislation should go in completely different direction, which is to banning expansion of the existing, small houses in the wetlands. At most, what should be allowed is renovation or reconstruction of existing house in kind and in place without allowing any digging in the wetlands. Okay, because this is destructive to the environment. Debris is going to the water, and then there's continuous negative impact.
We've got 2 town board members who are on the subcommittee that are working on drafting that legislation. I suggest you have a meeting with them to talk about it, because they're the ones who are going to continue working on it and then bring it back to the.
Okay, I'll do that too, but let me finish my remarks, okay?
But this is not a public hearing, and so.
I understand it, but it's not on the agenda, so I'm allowed to speak by your own rules.
It's legislation that's before us, so we don't,
Well, then you need to
we
rephrase
wait until.
your rules again, okay? But right now, it's not.
Anything that's legislation will have public hearings. These meetings don't have minutes taken, so your remarks, they're on Facebook however long someone can find them on Facebook, but they're not read into the record the same way at a public hearing where we have minutes that are documenting what everybody says. So in the future, someone can look up and say, what was the intent that was going on here? That's the public hearing where they will see.
Yeah, well, this is really lame excuse because the whole meeting can be watched on YouTube. There is no problem, anybody can find any meeting and so forth. So let me just finish my remarks. I'm pretty much at the end. What should be considered is what is the public interest? I don't see any public interest in allowing people to acquire land with small ranch and then build a huge house right in the wetlands, okay? I'm sure there will be forces that will be in support of this practice. There are special interests that benefit directly financially from this practice, such as some real estate agents, architects, engineers, contractors, etc., etc. I would say if there is a push for this, continue to allowing this, that those people come into the public hearing, argue what's the public interest in allowing this, okay? Because we come into the town board or other meetings and publicly state our opposition or support for certain things and so forth, okay? The other forces, they don't come in front of the town board, okay? They prefer to do this behind the scene where the public cannot see it, okay?
It's a presumption.
It's a fact.
I haven't had anyone come and talk to me, tell me to
Right.
change the wetlands.
Okay.
I've
Very
only
good.
heard people coming in favor.
Yeah.
So you're.
Well, that's where the perception is coming, that it's the same vocal voices that come in and argue things, okay? So we come in public and argue our point. And that's one of the candidates stated in his advertisement in the newspaper in the last Reporter, okay? So the other side can come too and voice their opinions. It's not just
At the public hearing, which is what I'm asking people to do.
Okay, the last point I wanted to make, that the town should really consult on things like this regarding the wetlands specialists, okay? The environmental scientists and experts, because the town doesn't have any expertise in-house at all on the environment, okay? So before you embark on legislations like this, the specialists should be consulted. And there are several of them you can point you to if you need to. Thank you.
Just working on that.
I already have a meeting set up with PEP to go over what their legal intern is finding on recommendations for code. So I have that meeting set up already.
Anyone else on a general topic? John?
Thank you for providing this time for public comments. My comments go back to last week's meeting. There was a gentleman who stood at the podium here to bring up some subjects, Mr. Gaynor, and he brought up the acquisition process for the Midway Road property that Laura Tuttle and I, we still own it because it's still in process. It's not a done deal. Now it's in the hands of the county. He made some statements that I was very surprised to hear. First of all, because of the public hearing, you're right, the public hearing is done in Shelter Island, right? And so to have other things come up afterwards doesn't seem quite fair. But I checked with his sources on what some of what he said. He was referring to the appraiser, who I knew because I had to give him directions on how to get there. I had to let him in. There's still no trespassing signs up there. And I showed him the property. And his name was Andy Stipe. He went for it. If you've ever driven the river, you've seen the sign there. 50 years, right? He said Andy Stipe, that he had a personal relationship with Andy Stipe. He also said he had a personal friendship with Andy Stipe. I called Andy Stein. I said, is that true? And he said, no, that's not true at all. He says, I've spoken to the man once on the telephone. Then Mr. Gaynor then went on to say that he had a meeting with Andy Stein at his home. And Mr. Stein said that was not true. He did not have a meeting with Mr. Gaynor at his home. That would have been very inappropriate. Mr. Gaynor is not a certified appraiser of property. So anything, and plus, since this is supposed to be all confidential, there shouldn't be any discussions about valuation or money, anything. I have never spoken to anybody on the town board, CPF, county, I've never inquired about money. I've never made an offer or said I need this or that. Whatever the offer came to me, Laura and I decided we were either going to say yes, thank you very much, or no. Board encouraged me to get my own appraisal. I said, well, that's not going to make any difference. The county's going to bring me, the county and the town are going to bring a figure, and I'm going to say we're going to say that sounds great, let's do it, or I'm going to say no, thank you. But the purpose of being part of the CPR program is to preserve that property. That was the Tuttle's intention, the Tuttle's family intention. So it really disturbs me that somebody would come in here and quote things that aren't true. He also quoted that the land, that in conjunction with his meeting with Mr. Stein, they had concluded that the land was worthless, that it was all wetlands, the land was mushy, essentially mud, use that word. I can tell you, I've been in there for hundreds of hours. I cleared it out by hand, almost half of it for over a period of 10 years. Bo Payne's been in and out of there 100 times in the town truck servicing the four-poster program. There's no ruts. I'm going out of there. That land is solid. It's solid. Are there wetlands along the water? Of course there are. There's no bulkhead. So yes, there's wetlands there, just like any other waterfront property. It doesn't have a bulkhead. And again, Mr. Gaynor stands up here and claiming he wants to promote community awareness. There isn't enough transparency. I'm here to promote community awareness and promote transparency. I went to the lot this morning. It's gorgeous. I have it mowed still. The trees are bloomed, the leaf canopy. It's absolutely gorgeous. If anybody would like to help me there, please contact me. And there's no trespassing sign up. I'll give you permission or meet you there, whatever. But it's a really special spot. And since the public hearing, Laura and I have gotten nothing but positive feedback. Dan, it's great that you guys found that and didn't write for development. And you were able to work it out with CPF. The process is still ongoing. It's now in the county hands. And they scrutinize this, with a fine tooth comb. I don't know all the details of it, but, they need permission to get in there. They call me. So they have to do a survey. They have to do an environmental study. They have to examine the land for hazardous materials, title searches, and anything that goes along with the transfer of the property. And that's still in process. And I guess that's about it. I just wanted to set the record straight that some of what was said last meeting is not accurate at all. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
My name is Gordon Gooding, okay? I am the chair of the Preservation Fund. I am also a resident. I guess this conversation is going to be a little bit both, okay? Where do you begin? Okay, and I'm going to try to make it brief, but what we seem to be lacking is decorum, okay, civility and decency, okay? Preservation our committee has been through a lot. We've been sued once, okay, when we're really a volunteer group, okay? We don't make the decisions, no matter how many times I say this, okay? We report to the town board, okay? If someone has a problem with what we decide on, they take it up to the town board. They ultimately make the decision. But we're still sued as a result, okay? our committee is a little frustrated with what's been going on, okay? And I think that someone needs to speak out on behalf of some of the things that are not correct. There is no relationship between myself and Fred Thiel, Jerry Siller. There's no inside, there's no conspiracy here, okay? This is something that we made an acquisition, we went through the process correctly. And I just think it's inappropriate, and it's wrong, okay, to forget CPF. I think it's really disgraceful to take one of our community members and make these kind of accusations, okay, when there's all kinds of pitfalls in whatever the statements are. I think it's incumbent on the board to really start addressing these things, and if there are misstatements, to correct them, okay? You know, our committee is really a little frustrated with this, okay? But again, we're volunteers. I don't think we should be handled in this way. I think we should have some protection from the town board. I think when people do things that are inappropriate, you should speak up. You know, that's what they call bullying, okay? So I'm asking the town board to really have our back, okay? Our committee are good people, they're volunteers. I mean, we went through this the last time, okay, and we seem to be in a replay here. And if they want to sue somebody, sue me, sue the town, but Mr. Needham does not belong in this conversation. It's inappropriate, he's making false statements, and we need to correct this, okay? How we do it, how we go about it, but we really need to set the record straight here, okay?
Is there anyone else in the physical audience? Oh, James, come on up.
James Eklund, South Midway Road. I wasn't going to say anything, but listening to John, I have to just back up what he said. I know the property intimately. Any assertion that it isn't not great property is completely false. It is exactly what the Peconic Estuary Partners have said is something that should be preserved. And any, other sort of opinion about that is to be taken with a grain of salt, I think. This property is definitely a buildable spot and could have been. Thanks to John and Laura, it's been preserved, and I congratulate them for that. I'm sorry that I didn't hear any of this stuff that went on, but whatever, if it was something casting aspersions on either one of them, take offense to that. And just one other plug, as we're talking about the property, let's not forget about the property next door to it. So I would just ask the town board to maybe let us know what's going on with that. Thanks.
Is there anyone in the Zoom audience who wishes to speak? Lori Beard-Raymond?
Hi, everybody. I just had a few minor comments based on what Jan had said. I know you're going to have a public hearing, so I'll be brief. But, often an upwards expansion, as you probably know, require a new foundation to be able to support a new second floor that isn't already there. And downwards expansion often require dewatering, as many of these locations are in the near shore overlay district with a shallow water table. So I think it's important to saying all that for people to be allowed to make necessary repairs or maintenance or upgrades for those that are in the floodplains or near shore overlay district for existing structures. However, expansions for new construction are another matter entirely. All must really be evaluated to understand the pros and cons of what the town board is considering, so the public is informed of your intentions and reasoning, as Meg alluded to, before a public hearing. That would be helpful for the public to understand these things. I also think footprints need to be further defined because over the years, you know, people have gone as far as to push the footprint to include, you know, roof overhangs and patios and decks and other things that really aren't part of the footprint. So there's a lot to be considered in this revisions to the wetland codes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I'm just waiting to see if there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet. I see a video on, Christina. Is that someone who wishes to speak, or? Yeah,
Yes, I want to touch on a different subject. What is the status of the comprehensive plan? I mean,
Noah's currently working on the revisions. I've had a back and forth conversation with him today about questions he had, so hopefully we'll have it by the end of the week.
okay, because I asked the same question 3 weeks ago, and it was supposed to have been the following week available. So now it's 3 weeks later, and every time we ask about it, there seemed to be the same answer, and nothing is happening. Okay, the last meeting of the CPAC was on April 29th, during which the draft CP was approved to be passed to the consultants, okay, for the final revisions, okay? So that was 10 weeks ago, okay? There was a breakneck pace of rushing CP through, as I mentioned that already 3 weeks ago, in late 2023 to get it passed under the previous administration. There were 3 CPAC meetings per week, formal submission of half-baked draft to the South Atlantic Planning Commission in October 23. That was done by Councilman Larson, and all of a sudden there is no rush. Okay, it seemed like the part of the town board which is guiding the comprehensive plan is slow walking it. So could you, okay, you're not slow walking.
No.
So
no,
could
we're just
you-
waiting for the
could-
consultants. They have.
Yes, but we hear the same answer over and over, and it's been 10 weeks since the last CPAC happened. So could you now walk us through your new strategy and the timing?
I'm equally frustrated because I wanted to be further along in where we are. But the consultants the past couple of weeks have gotten slowed down with vacation, whatever else is going on with the consultants. The promise today was that we should have it by the end of the week, and then I can start to get it.
By the end of this week?
So I can start to get it back onto my timeline, which I've updated so many times. And so it's not a slow walk. I want to continue with the process. As soon as we get it back from them, we will start to schedule every single week a chapter.
Because you were reported saying consultant and reporter, May 23rd issue, that the review of this comprehensive plan was supposed to have started, I believe, in June, and was supposed to wrap up by August, okay? So we're like 5 or 6 weeks behind schedule now?
Yeah. No, when I look at it, it's, I'll tell you where it is, but this was based on me hoping that we were going to get it last week.
So we keep hearing the same thing, every 3 weeks.
No, and
Next week.
I'm not happy with it either, but,
Well, I mean,
there's not much that can be done. We had to wait for some information. We have to wait for the consultants to finish it. So so my hope was, when I was updating this last week, that we would get it by today, in which case I wanted to give ourselves and the public a month to look at it, which would have started chapter 1 in August. So we have August 6th, so now I think that's going to be revised to August 13th is when we'll start to pick it up. So that would step us through chapter by chapter through November 6th. And then I wanted to, that's chapter by chapter, and then a couple of other work sessions to continue to just review and go through and double check changes throughout the document. Maybe we don't need all that. And then my hope would be that we could set the public hearing, the first one, November 25th. But now I have a problem with that because it is falling into the holidays. So that,
November 25th, wow.
unless we can work harder and consolidate chapters, and once we get it, that's something I was going to suggest, because I don't want to start scheduling public hearings in the middle of the holidays. So when I started to do the timeline with my frustration, I was like, this is not gonna work for me, it's not gonna work for the public. So we're going to, when we get the plan, sit down, maybe we only take 3 weeks. Maybe we can combine certain chapters that are non-controversial. So the four of us will look at it and collectively come to some decisions so that we schedule this in the best way for the public. And when you say that we were trying to fast walk this and get it done last year, that's just not true. There was no way that was ever gonna happen. So just stop saying that, because that was not the intention last year.
And we're not intentionally slowing it now. It's continuing through the process. It is just a long process. It took Southold 10 years to do their plan. So we're doing better than them already. So it's just the way the process goes.
But we will, the four of us will figure out the best timeline. And once we have the plan, that's hopefully next Tuesday, that's gonna be one of the agenda topics, and we will sit down and schedule and, maybe give ourselves a week to like relook at things and see if we can consolidate it to have public hearings before the holidays, or we will have to wait until after the
Okay,
year.
so
Start
I'm
having.
not pushing one or the other, I just wanted to understand what is happening, because there's such a stark difference between the pace last year and the pace this year, where, it's month after month after month.
Yeah, no,
And
it's-
if you wanna take 2 years to do it, which it seems like you're not in a hurry to do it, despite protestations to the contrary, but that's fine. I mean, that's just my
I would still like to
opinion.
have it done before September 2025. And the reason for that is there's grant money available out there that we can apply for in order to hire a legal team to then help us with our code. And so I'd like to get that so that in 2026, we could actually have that team come in and really overhaul our town code, which in zoning, there's just so many areas we have issues. That is my long-term goal, is to try and get to that
We all
point.
know that the current town code is like Swiss cheese, okay? People getting away with murder, and it badly needs a rewrite. But on that subject, okay, it seems like the town is discussing a whole bunch of new laws. It wasn't us who were pushing those laws, okay? I don't know who initiated them, I'm assuming town board.
We're trying to like put some Band-Aids on things that we can, where we can. And actually, our next agenda item is to discuss where we stand with proportionality law.
But you yourself said that we need the comprehensive plan first before we're gonna be enacting new
And we can,
changes to the town code, because without a comprehensive plan, for those changes, the town is on weak legal grounds to defend those new town codes, okay? So how come we're passing or attempting to pass, maybe it's just a discussion to see what will stand in a comprehensive plan, but somehow it seems like the order is reversed, that we're having wetlands law, we have docking law, we have this law, that law, pyramid law and so forth, and without a comprehensive plan first. So could you explain that?
we're trying to fix things as we can, which when we hire the legal team that will look at our whole code, anything that, like, all these Band-Aids and patches and things can then be fixed in total. But do we want to continue on for 2 years with some really bad code? If we can find some fixes here and there, and we're listening to the public, the large homes. People don't want to see, houses greater than 600 square feet. So let's look at what we can do to fix it on a short-term basis. It's not perfect. And let's not sacrifice the good for the great. Having the town, the comprehensive plan and fixing everything is the great. But at the moment, we're just trying to deal with good. So that's my approach.
Okay, not that I'm opposing all those changes, okay, I am opposing strongly some of those changes, like continuing building large houses in the wetlands, which should definitely come out. I think, I don't know, I mean, the more you put several of those new laws on a boat without comprehensive plan, that may not be a good idea legally.
Can I just chime in real quick? The comprehensive plan is tied to the zoning code. So everything outside of the zoning code can be amended without the comprehensive plan. So wetlands is outside of the zoning code, so you can change that dock law. Absolutely. And then also, if you see a major problem and you want to put a Band-Aid on it before the comprehensive plan is done, you could always amend it after the fact when the comprehensive plan is done. It's not.
Did I not just say that?
No, I know, but what, I'm reiterating.
Yes, okay.
Maybe, okay,
Are you sure about this?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
We do have we do,
Legal
well,
opinion.
I would not, because we have a comprehensive plan, we already have a comprehensive plan, and things that we're doing is in line with the comprehensive plan. And we have a member that was on the CPAC that knows what the draft in the main is, so we're doing everything in line with that as well. So I think we're on good legal stand. Thanks, Sean.
Again, for a year, I would ask for a second legal opinion.
Thanks, town board.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
James?
James?
Once again, I didn't think I would be speaking. I was just party to what I would term a disturbing conversation that I was told that, private citizens shouldn't comment on their views on acquisition of property. My view of, particularly the property on Midway Road, it should be confidential, it's not my business to talk about it. I take exception to that, and I hope the town board does not support that. And I hope the CPF doesn't support that. Private citizens should be allowed to voice their opinion. My opinion is just that. I'm not speaking for any group or anything else. I've been encouraged through a letter in the Reporter for other people to perhaps consider that. And I think that's sort of the way America works, or used to. So if anybody has a problem with it, I think maybe they should look within themselves and really see what they're questioning. Thank you.
May I? I'm Kathy Kenny, I'm on the CPF committee. As long as I've been on the committee, as far as I know, we go into executive session to talk about acquisitions because they're confidential until the town board votes on them, et cetera. The party who just spoke, Mr. Eklund, wrote a letter about a particular property that we were considering in executive session. He also made reference to that property today. So I asked him to back off. I never said a citizen couldn't say what he wanted to about a property. My point was that he speak about a property in executive session, he was not to talk about it either. His response was, I'm a private citizen, I can say what I want. And he can, but not with respect to acquisitions that are discussed in executive session. So I think he misrepresented the conversation. That's my take on it.
He wasn't a party to that executive session.
Doesn't matter. It's executive, in other
I'm
words, it
just trying to
stays within
understand.
that committee. It's not even taped. The agenda doesn't go out to anyone.
Yes.
So he decided to speak about it because he thinks the property that's near his home, just the way the Needham property is, should be acquired. But he knew about that private conversation. I don't know how, but he did.
My understanding, because I had somebody else who said that they were going to write a letter to the editor as well, but my.
Well, you can ask him if he knew
it-
about that executive session discussion.
I can't speak for James, but this other person spoke because they saw it being advertised
In the
in the
Reporter.
Reporter, and that's what caused the concern.
I don't think that's the case here. I think somebody from town hall let him know that this was to be quiet, because he was also talking to other people. My point is, if the committee talks about something in an executive session, it should stay there. It should not leak from town hall. It should not leak from another committee member. If that's the rule, let's stick by it. That's all my conversation with him is about.
No, I agree with
And
you.
I
Anything
got
that's-
umbrage for it, but I'm telling you,
That's
that's
to
the
say, anything that is
conversation.
spoken about in executive session, anybody there at that executive session should not be disclosing. Gordon?
I'm sorry to go back at this, okay? I think what we're missing the point, okay, is when you're negotiating with people on selling their property, okay? And listen, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. All I know is that there's an influence when we have the public and people who have knowledge and know that we're in a conversation with a potential seller. It does affect the selling price. Because we're telling the seller, okay, oh, the town board, the residents, everybody wants this, it can impact the sale of the property. I don't know how much, I don't know where, but I think we should really try to refrain. If they have a conversation, pick up the phone to the supervisor, voice your opinion, whatever. I just think when you put it out in the public, you can affect the transaction. It may not necessarily be positive, but it may affect the cost to the town. That's I think what you really need to know. Thank you.
Isn't there a policy and procedures that every member receives?
Okay, we will now move on to item number 2, proportionality law. The reason I put this on the agenda is last week when we spoke, we talked about whether or not we should move forward with this legislation, given that we're in the middle of the comp plan, or table it till later on. We also talked about hiring a planner and having an environmental done on the proportionality law. But then before we spend the money on this, I just wanted to make sure, like, why spend the money when I was hearing individually that we should be holding off on this? So I wanted to come to some sort of conclusion today. Are we going to move forward with hiring a planning consulting firm to do an environmental on this, or is this head in water until we either get further along in chapters in the comp plan or finish the comp plan?
I think it all can be done at the same time. Like, we can hire a planner now, and by the time that happens, we should have the plan in front of us, I hope, and we can do them together. My original objection to this was just that it seemed a little backwards, a little premature, because we didn't have the plan, and we don't have the expertise on board to really look at the unintended consequences of this law, even though I like the law. I mean, I like the concept of this law. So I think we could do both going forward.
So we would continue to look at which firms we could
Yes,
take a look at.
I mean, let's take the next step in finding a planner to help us with this.
I would rather have the comprehensive plan first, rather than continue with this now. There's too many ramifications to it. Too many properties that'll be affected, and we don't have the expertise, and I need to see the comprehensive plan. I need to see the GEIS done on the comprehensive plan, really, an understanding of that to move forward on this individual aspect.
And what about Ben's comment with respect to doing it simultaneously?
I don't agree with that.
Well, I'm a little. I can't even say frustrated anymore. The question I'm having here is that we've gotten a few different messages. You know, at one point it's you can't do anything without the comp plan, but we're gonna pass the pyramid law. You can't do, you know, I mean, we've already made zoning changes. So either I think we need to go back and look at the zoning changes that we've made and revisit them, or, you know, figure out a process that everybody's comfortable with moving forward to make zoning changes. I mean, proportionality is recommended in the comprehensive plan. You know, Albert, you want the comprehensive plan adopted prior to making any zoning changes. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
moving forward, but
right.
I'm not sure, is it adopted or just?
Well, he's
saying
saying
adopted.
He's saying adopted.
moving
That's
forward with
clarifying.
it. I mean, so that it's well vetted. That's what I need to see.
When when we started this, we had a schedule for the plan. From the last CPAC meeting to when it went to the consultants, it was 5 weeks. So we lost that time. Our original timetable was to start to review the comprehensive plan. And while we were doing that, we were gonna consider pyramid law, proportionality, and we could have it all in front of us and see it. The comprehensive plan didn't make it to the consultants for 5 weeks.
Because there were changes and edits and corrections that needed to be made. There was information that the committee requested we include in it. I had to go to different sources to collect that information. It takes time for people to get back to you.
Michelle making the fire department, you can submit it without that information, and that's information that
Okay,
is
Ben.
readily available.
All right.
But, so we're
here.
well, not because we're here, and not just off schedule. So, like I said, I am interested in getting back on track with the comp plan. At the same time, we can look at these laws. I mean, the pyramid law is almost inconsequential and probably fits in with our current comprehensive.
I would beg to differ. I've gotten a lot of complaints about it. A lot of people didn't realize that it passed. They didn't realize that there had been a public hearing. It wasn't reported in the paper well. People didn't know what was going on. And I've had a lot of people come to me saying, now I'm having problems with my project because this is passed and I didn't know about it. If I had known about it, I would have come and said something.
Okay.
So
I did not get any of those comments, and you haven't presented me here for us to talk about. I'd be interested in learning about it. I would like to move forward with a comprehensive plan, and at the same time, we can continue our discussion on proportionality. Meanwhile, we can look for a town planner, which can only be helpful to the town and everything else that we're doing. We've been talking about a town planner for a long time. We can hire one for this project and get our feet wet with working with a planner and see where it goes. We actually need a little more expertise in the room on proportionality. Less so with pyramid, more so with proportionality. And that can't be a bad thing. And I wouldn't mind moving forward on that piece. Doesn't mean we're gonna pass the law. Sorry, Andrew.
I was asking if they went hand in hand, just for my own.
We can do, look at the comp plan and look for a planner and talk and do more work on proportionality. Because once we hire a planner, it's gonna take a while to go through proportionality with that planner. And it's gonna take a while to go for the comp plan. It can all kind of move forward simultaneously, and we're talking 6 to 9 months anyway. I'd say 9 months, actually.
So what you're suggesting is you can hit the ground running once the comprehensive plan is adopted, because you did all the work.
Hopefully.
So essentially, I can take all the work I've done, hand to a planner, so he can look at it and say, yes, move forward with that. Excellent. Let's do that. I mean,
They might say no. They might say, look, and they might have really good input on things we didn't consider. Because, I mean, I don't know what's in the comprehensive plan, so love to see it.
I've worked in municipalities with planners, and Meg did a great job, like as far as what they would do. She did it similarly. But obviously, planners have more broad experience than she does, and you
absolutely.
can get some benefit from a planner, absolutely.
So you want to know what we want to do.
Yeah, so I too am in favor of trying to continue moving this forward. And so the next step would be to talk to different consulting firms and pick the best one that can assess what we need here. And we'll just keep stepping through them. So there's 3 of us in favor of it, so.
I'm not sure Meg's in favor of it.
I'm not in favor of it. I think that we need to give, we need to give the zoning board tools to work with, now that we've given them the large homes. all they have is a cap. So,
And the pyramid.
and the pyramid, which isn't really gonna be significant for
Except for-
large homes on large acreage.
Except for people want to do
So-
ADUs at this point,
Right,
which is what we're hearing. That's the impact.
right, it's impacting ADUs.
Can you share this feedback with us at some point?
Sure.
I mean, I haven't heard any negative comments about it, but was there anything in writing?
No,
Or-
these are verbal conversations I've had with people. You know, there were people who had plans to do a second story above a garage as an ADU, and now they have to go through the zoning board if they want to move forward with the project, so they're probably not gonna do the project because it's an added expense and time that they can't afford. You know, I've had a couple of things like that come up.
So they're doing an ADU with the grant money
No,
or on
well,
their
they
own?
were
They won't
gonna,
be able to do the grant money.
they can't,
because
if they
they'll
have to go
to
for a
CBA.
zoning change, they can't. So. Yeah, so there's, you know, it does have impact. All of these things would have impact.
Well, maybe this planner that we're gonna be looking for can have a look back at the pyramid law and maybe help us tweak it so it's less impactful, to negatively impactful. Another good reason why we should look for this planner.
Are we moving forward with the GEIS on the comp plan? Are we interviewing people? Are we lining up to do that? We know we'd have to do that. I wanted to make sure we do it.
Yeah, and when we're going to, as we go through the chapters, we're going to start to define the scope for the GEIS.
But Albert, also what we can do is do an environmental analysis of proportionality and also, once again, get some experience with an environmental consultant that we might want to use for the comp plan and have proportionality looked at and environmentally assessed. And it could all happen soon. Would that make you a little easier?
No.
Ease your mind? No.
Maybe I'm just set on it. I don't want to move forward with proportionality.
I don't think you're moving forward as far as anticipating, setting a public hearing on it. I think
No.
you're just doing it, they just want to do the homework on it.
Could we be really clear about that?
I just want to, I don't want to spend money, like, if it's a dead in the water, if both of you were like, we're not gonna pass this until comp plan, and I don't see, like, unless we can work out the timetable in the next couple of weeks to move this along, it's going to be in 2025, so why spend money now? Like, let's, it gives us time to put it into the budget, we're coming up to budget season, so we can push that expense to 2025.
Okay. I'm okay with that, but what I'm saying is, this is gonna take as long to look at proportionality as it's going to take to look at the comp plan.
I don't think for something of this magnitude, it's gonna take that long. The GEIS for the comp plan is gonna take longer, because that's more broad reaching, but we need to define the scope too.
Working with the planner, doing an environmental analysis of proportionality. Yeah, do you think that'll happen before the comp plan?
I don't
Before it's
understand what kind of
adopted.
environmental analysis you need for proportionality.
Well, we'll have to
Proportionality
go
is a
through-
reduction of density.
Yeah.
It's not an increase in density, it's capping density. So it's a reduction, which how it would have a negative impact environmentally, I'm not quite sure. Can you?
Sure.
I think it has a tremendous impact on the island. I mean, I think there's easily 500 or more properties that this will affect proportionality. And I need to have some expertise to understand what the impacts will be and the ramifications. I don't know it. I don't think anybody here at the table can see it and grasp it, honestly.
Secret is an environmental review.
I'm just saying that
So there'll be there are of course other impacts through proportionality, but if you're capping everything at 6,000 square feet, and then you're making caps for smaller lots, therefore limiting the amount of building construction you can have on those lots, you're not adding increased environmental burden.
but there's
where-
impacts that I need to understand.
Okay,
and ramifications of doing those things, Meg.
okay,
That's all. I don't feel comfortable moving forward with
right.
at all on any level, really.
Okay. Uh,
I've been speaking with a grant writer who has a couple of people who I think, as far as secret and environmental reviews, that could come in and speak to us.
I'm sorry, who were you talking to?
Jen Mezziano, our grant writer. Because I was explaining to her, like some of the obstacles we're facing and things like that. And so she does have a couple of people. I have to take a look. I think it was either later this month or possibly August that someone might be available. So I think some just general education for us to truly understand what it is we're looking for, what types, who's out there, what's going on, I think would be good. Be good for us. It would be good for the public to hear.
Yes.
So I have that in the works. I just need to circle back to her after the holidays and some vacations. But
I'm open to waiting and listening to what she has to say. Are you willing to listen to what she has to say? You don't have to change your mind. Listen.
well, no, this will also help us with the GIS for the comp plan. So
It's informational on
multiple.
process and procedure and how
Yeah,
it's supposed to go.
it's more, I started it more for the comp plan and trying to understand how exactly, like getting my arms around this whole GEIS, things like that, so.
Okay.
It doesn't really make sense to do a whole environmental impact study for proportionality if we're going to be doing it for the comprehensive plan that includes proportionality. We're just paying for it twice.
Yep.
I mean,
So you're saying we're doing it for the comp plan, definitely?
it's in the comprehensive plan as a recommendation. It has been since you were on the comp plan.
No, I mean GEIS for the comp plan.
I'm not saying anything, it has to be appropriate. We go through the process and procedure and it's the appropriate method of moving, and yes.
Then we should wait
Okay,
until we do. If that's the case, then we should wait and build proportionality with the comp plan.
okay.
But I would love to hear from,
Oh, I'm gonna continue that because that conversation didn't start with proportionality, it started with the comp.
Yeah.
So, and it seemed, when she was pulling together who might be able to speak with us, her timing seemed right. We will start to go through the comp plan, we will start to figure out the scope, but it'll be early enough in the process, if I can get these people in the next few weeks, August at the latest, to help us understand what it is we're looking for and what we're doing.
I'm always interested in talking to people who know more about stuff than I do.
That's why I started the conversation with this. I know I need to learn more. Okay, so I'm taking proportionality, like it's off the table until
So
someone tells me to put it back on.
I just wanted to, for the board's edification, the term environment, in secret, I just want to read the definition just so everyone's aware. Environment means the physical conditions that will be affected by a proposed action, including land, air, water, minerals, flora, fauna, noise, resources of agriculture, archaeological, historic, or aesthetic significance, existing patterns of population concentration, distribution or growth, existing community or neighborhood character, and human health. So it's kind of a broad definition.
that list.
Exactly, yeah, I just wanted, again, to throw that out there.
Where'd you get that definition from?
It's the secret regs.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. I may have someone who can also come talk to us with Jen.
Mhm.
Can we dig into that?
Yeah, it's not Jen, she's got a couple of people who.
It's someone from the DEC.
Yes,
Isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I have to go back and look at, I haven't.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago that I was going back and forth.
Next.
Okay, WQI grants for IA systems mandated upon property transfer. This is not about the legislation. This is about our policy.
I will be
Yes.
recusing myself from this conversation.
You have to go, and we do have a couple of members from the WQI committee. What, I handed to everybody, and there's some extras in the back that are for those in the audience. It is our funding policy and restrictions guide. It is on the website for people who are applying for grants. And if you go to page 4 out of 7, item D2, homeowner initiated and Suffolk County Department of Health Services or town building code mandated system upgrades. So WQI rebate eligibility may be authorized when the homeowner / applicant voluntarily initiates the process for removal of a cesspool or conventional septic system and upgrades to an IA OWTS for the purpose of decreasing nitrate contamination and waste effluent. The Suffolk County Department of Health Services or the requirements of the Shelton Town Code may initiate a regulatory mandate to upgrade a cesspool or a conventional septic system to an IA as part of a review of home construction or other regulated change to the property. WQI policy bars providing rebates for an IA when upgrading is mandated by Suffolk County Department of Health Services or by section 43-94 of the Shelter Island. So this is where we are mandating upon transfer, people would still be eligible for state and county grants as long as it's not new construction. Expanding growth, but we had discussed allowing for some rebates at some point in time. And so before sending this back to WQI, I wanted us to discuss it, to give them direction on types of changes, recommendations, like who should be eligible, should we make money available for this?
Yeah, I was under the impression we would get some input from them.
Well, we have two members who are here, and I asked if they could make the time to come to just give us thoughts and discussions that have happened at the committee level. But I know part of your ask has been, what does the town board consider? So correct me if I'm wrong, James, and you and Betty want to come up and.
The WQI has wrestled with many different scenarios. Some of them are enumerated here, where it is a catastrophic failure of a system, which is technically mandated by Suffolk County as, has to be replaced, which would then, if you looked at the fine letter of the law, would say, well, then they're not eligible because they're mandated, but it's sort of initiated by a voluntary thing, so we have supported that kind of, grant for those situations. Getting into whether, any kind of mandated, by town code upon transfer should be eligible, is something that I think, our committee could get behind, in some fashion, depending on, our resources and funding available. Our goal is to, one way or another, get these systems in the ground. I think, we were trying to come up with, various ways of enticing people to do it. We've recently relieved the criteria that was set forth when money was a little tighter, and increased grants that are available, encourage people to put in the pressurized shallow drain fields, given money if the Suffolk County has mandated a well relocation. So yeah, we are wanting to get more people interested in applying. We're trying to come up with outreach initiative and other methods of getting people to think about doing it. We're going to have potentially meet with all of the HOA presidents and see if they can get their members on board and perhaps get a group in a certain area to go ahead and go forth with it. We would try and streamline the process as much as we can, perhaps even get some cost savings. But IA installations are so unique to each property generally that there's so many variables that it's hard to quantify. There's not going to be any ease of doing a bunch because they're all going to be different. But going forward, and if the town decided that we would mandate them within some certain period of time after a transfer of property, certainly our committee would be, amenable to that. Maybe there's a different schedule, how they would be eligible for the grants. I mean, I can't really speak to it without doing a little more, thought about it, but certainly we would be interested in doing it.
Thank you, that's what I want to do. The current legislation allows 3 years, mainly because it's been taking the state and county that much time in a lot of cases to get those grants done, so we wanted to at least match that timeline. I mean, my feeling is that.
3 years, the 3 years really is a rule that we've come up with that, that people are eligible for grants, we'll give them a grant, but they can't do any work that increases the density of the land or the design flow of the property within that time period. If they put a new roof on, that's not a big deal, but I mean, if they put a roof with a new room under it and it's a bedroom, that's a big deal.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is, if we're gonna mandate this, tell people they have to do it, it seems to follow that we should offer some financial assistance. Because we wanna get.
If you're in office, probably it's a good idea.
Yeah, because we wanna get more of these in the ground. I mean, we've done a decent job, but we're certainly struggling to get people to sign up. There's an outreach program going on, so. But
Can I interrupt?
legislation in the, yes, please, go ahead. I'm tired
If
of hearing
somebody's
this.
obligated to put one in, and they're still eligible for $20,000 in grant funding from the county and state, why would we subsidize that? Why wouldn't we use that money for something else? Why would we subsidize somebody?
Because usually they cost more than $20,000. And we've done it.
But if somebody's obligated to put it in,
Well, the
And they know-
obligations, we're making them obligated, Albert.
right, then they know the cost of that. If they're gonna, and it's transactional between a seller and a buyer. They're gonna know the ramifications of it, what it's gonna cost. And why would we subsidize that? I mean, granted, we have to get these in the ground, but why wouldn't we use the money in other ways than to subsidize somebody who's obligated to put one in?
I see. So what you're really saying is, in an arm's length real estate transaction, there is money on the table. So why don't we force people to use that money?
That's gonna be a negotiation between the two parties.
Well, they're not yet mandated to do it.
No, they're not mandated now, but
Okay, I would think
that's where it's going,
if
but.
that were the case, then you might consider, exceptions, where it's a transfer within a family or,
Which we do. We have.
Which we do,
Yeah,
that's in the draft.
That's in the legislation.
But maybe he's suggesting in the potential to get a grant as well, make some exceptions for if the real property transfer was between a father and a son, that son could qualify for a grant as opposed to just a regular transaction, arm's length transaction. So similar to the exemptions we have, the mandate, we can throw in to the grant.
Well, the exemptions, but they don't have to put in an IA septic system. The exemptions, is that correct?
My father's son is already exempt.
That's true.
Yeah, these are arm's
I mean, this is a
length,
transaction,
non-family real estate
and they're
transactions.
eligible on their own to get $20,000. Why are we gonna subsidize something they have to do?
Because we're making them do it, that's why.
But also, what about, I know you brought up in the past, the financial capability of the person.
Yes,
So if
I
I,
have a suggestion.
yes. We couldn't put an income cap on it.
correct,
Hi, I'm Betty Bishop, I'm on the water quality board as well. An IA system at this point costs anywhere from $36,000 to $40,000. That's today, okay? Who knows what it's gonna be 2 weeks from now with inflation and everything else. I wanna ask you, Albert, do you have $20, $25 in your bank after buying a house or, trying to live on this island, when the cost of a house, average house is $1 million at this point? I think what we're doing is we're excluding people who have grown up on this island, teachers on this island, the ability to live here. They're already paying the Community Preservation Fund. The money that we get as for our project, I know it's for other things besides just IA systems, but it is dedicated to that. So why can't we use this money to help these people? $20,000 is not gonna cut it. And at this point, they're not even getting the money from Suffolk County unless it's a catastrophic situation. And until legislation changes in November, if it does, then who knows what's gonna happen? I wouldn't put an IA system in at this point, not knowing that I'm gonna get that money. I don't have a free $25,000, $30,000, depending on what happens. Landscaping, new driveway, whatever, to put an IA system in.
Good.
That's my point.
Thank you.
Sure. This isn't my bailiwick, I'm Captain Kevin.
Did you have an IA system at your house? I've seen it.
I do. I was one of the first ones. Following on, is it Bishop?
Yes.
I noticed that the policy still has the limitation on the grants to $12,000. Now, when I put mine in, it was 15,000. And I think under Jerry's administration, it was reduced to 12, is that correct?
6.
It was 6 and then it got taken back up. There was a period of time where the fund balance was getting low pre-COVID. And the cost of systems, we kind of had an average, and so 6,000 was kind of like 26,000, you know. Certain properties were able to go forward and get the system.
I had touched 6,000.
So it got reduced to 6, but then we realized that the system costs were going back up again. Added an extra amount for, like an increased amount for well relocation, and then pressurized shallow drain field, that amount was
I'm
increased
at
as well.
Silver Beach, and mine cost 33,000.
Mhm.
And the town gave me 13. I had to put out 10,000 until I got the grant money back. Fortunately, I had it. But I would like to suggest to the town that they look at that number again and maybe make it more flexible, considering how much they cost now. Mine was put in 5 years ago, so I can't imagine the prices. So that was one comment. I'm looking at the WQI rebate eligibility may be authorized. Now, doesn't our code provide, I don't have the code provision in front of me, saying that they can get it? Why is this use of may? Don't we have a provision in the code that says this is available?
Well, that monies can be used, not
It says
must
can.
be used. Yeah, I think it's within the WQI section, that's one thing that monies, yes.
And it's, in the code section it doesn't dictate, the grant policy, it's actually this this document is the policy.
What the code says. Now, the last thing, WQI, and I don't think I agree with Albert for change. I think those people should get, because as she said, people aren't gonna have the money to do it. Utmost importance is that a lot of people should start getting these items. But anyway, this is the first time for everything. When we get down to catastrophic cesspool failure, by definition, to me, you're mandated to correct the situation, put in an IA system. So why would you fund that? You don't follow me?
So sometimes they don't even know that it's failing, it's a definition of the Suffolk County Health Department.
Are you mandated for an IA system or just a new septic system?
If
Well,
it's,
George Health Brown, you have to be.
Well, if you want a grant, it has to be IA.
if it's a catastrophic system,
All right. Supervisor's talking.
yeah, I was gonna say, James, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's a catastrophic failure, Suffolk County will allow you to put a conventional system back in. So the reason we put this in is we wanted the extra carrot to get people to put in the IA system. So while it was mandated that they had to replace their system, it wasn't mandated that they go to IA. So this is This
So
is the
probably
push.
they should pay the difference between the IA and the convention. I'm just suggesting, if our funds are so tight.
They're not tied at the moment.
They're not
Most
tied at the
people,
moment.
yeah,
They're not
most
supposed to be tight.
And the purpose of the funds is to encourage
Yes, I know.
IA systems.
I would have to replace it anyway, whether this program exists or not. So my point is, if you have to even just put in the conventional, they should get between the cost of the conventional vis-a-vis the IA. That's all.
That under consideration. Like I
So,
said, I think it's an unreasonable out of the blue transfer tax for us to mandate installation of IA system upon transfer and not offer financial assistance. It's just, it's transfer tax from outer space.
I had a suggestion. That, because right now you're saying it's mandated, you don't want to change this policy. So, and we need 3 of us, and there's only 3 of us to agree. So, how about this as an alternative? I was checking with the assessor's office because there's star exemptions and there's star credits. And the star exemption is if you are, if Shelter Island is your primary residence and you are less than $250,000 in income, you are eligible for a star exemption. If you are between 250,000 and 500,000, you're eligible for star credit. And then there's also enhanced star exemptions for seniors, but they'd already fall into the star exemption. So I wondered about if someone was eligible for a star exemption, how about then is when we would change our policy and allow those purchasers to apply for a grant. So we're putting an income cap on it. So if
Yeah.
someone's, multimillionaire, yeah, they can pay for their own system. But some, like the people we're trying to help and lessen the burden of this for are going to be people who are income constrained. So
That's a
I'm tossing
nice
that out there.
idea.
There's a little hiccup in there that I'm following up on, but just the premise without underlining,
That's a
would you be in
income
favor
test.
of that?
Some sort of income test.
What is the income test then?
It
What
was-
is, what is
It's
the?
it's whatever the county sets as the star exemption. So right now, if you're less than $250,000 in income, then you're eligible for star exemption. Enhanced star is greater than 65 and less than 98,000. So the $250,000 one kind of wraps people.
No, we also want to help out the younger people.
Right, and I'm thinking, yeah, I like the
But there,
250,000.
I thought we've included that in the draft legislation,
No, that's if there's a relationship. I'm just saying, hey,
the title transfer. I mean, we
No.
look at their,
So I'm
You're
thinking,
excluded.
I'm thinking of the couple that I know that bought the house from the aunt. So they wouldn't be eligible under the way we've written the legislation because it's not a direct relationship. It's one step removed because it's, I guess it was, I don't know, niece and aunt or something like a nephew and aunt. So they wouldn't be exempted based on our legislation, but we could help them with a change in policy.
or even if it's a teacher who wants to buy a house, found a reasonably priced house. There's no familiar, like, they would have to put in the IA system. So, and let's say this hypothetical person makes $80,000 a year. Wouldn't have the cash to do it. So I'm just saying in that particular instance, you could come up with your own income
I
level.
liked the star exemption just because it's county set, so we peg it to that. We don't need to see the financials.
I know, but 250,000.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you'd be able to afford to put it.
That used to be real money.
I was gonna say, when you start looking at housing prices on Shelter Island and doing mortgage calculations, like, I can crunch those numbers if we wanna take a harder look at this.
It's not, even the cost of housing, it's not a big number. And
Mhm.
we don't say this on television, but Shelter Island does not have a shortage of wealthy people moving here.
Right, and
We
so
do
they
have a
would-
shortage of teachers.
Yeah, yeah, so the
We need
wealthy
to help
people,
them.
yeah, the wealthy people would like pay for your own. And so, I mean, would you consider something like that?
I guess. I mean, my position, I know, is very unpopular. And I know people are gonna be looking at this and saying, what the hell is wrong with Dixon? Somebody should shoot him. It's transactional. How many houses are under $1 million on Chiltern? Under 2 million or $1.5 million? What?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So I mean, I think to a large degree, the people that are buying the houses have the ability to do something like this,
That's what-
or they wouldn't buy it.
That's what the income test does. It helps fix that problem and focuses the use of the WQI money on the people who need it the most and the people we need in this community the most. If you said I guess, Albert, if you say that really fast, it sounds like yes.
No. How many years has the grant program been in existence? 8 years? 7, 8 years? What?
The first grants were issued in 2017. There were 7 of them.
2016 was adopted.
16, it was adopted,
Mhm.
all right, and what do we have? We have less than 70 systems put in the ground?
75 or something.
I know.
So you want to, so you're saying that you want to put in fewer now going forward? We're trying to put in more. And that's
Yeah,
what.
but
we're
these
trying to make
people are
this money
gonna,
available.
these buyers are gonna be obligated to put one in. I mean, I don't know, I wrestle with this, I do, honestly. Block Island, other areas, they just go to the homeowner and say, put in an IA septic system, there's no grant program. They want them put in the ground, we don't do that.
I'm not sure
We
what
don't.
the community in Block Island's like. I don't know if it's still similar to this one as far as, you know, housing and size and, well, what I'm trying to say is we want to put in more and we want to use this money to put in more. So we should try to move in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, yes, if we pass this legislation, we will end up putting in more systems. What I'm trying to mitigate is the hurt. And this is going to hurt a certain segment of our population. And that's, like, I don't know how many people will qualify for this and be able to take advantage of this. We can monitor it and change the policy. We've changed the policy, as Kathy pointed out, 15,000, 6,000, 12,000 plus. So,
And I'm okay with limiting.
Let me, I won't say no completely, let me just think about this.
okay, and I can crunch some numbers to
Okay.
like what, you know,
Right.
like how's, you know, what a $250,000 couple can afford for a mortgage and what kind of house that could buy.
So just to summarize quickly, we seem to have support from WQI. They would like to see this happen.
Yes.
And Albert's wrestling with it. I am for it. I am absolutely, I fully support an income cap as well. I have no problem restricting people from this money who earn more than $250,000 a year. That's okay by me. It's your suggestion, so I assume it's okay by you.
Yes, yes. The only hiccup that I got when I went over to talk to Judith, just to double check that I had the right numbers that I pulled off of, you know, the internet, was that the STAR exemption, they changed it a little bit in the past. So she's going to check. What happens now is someone who's eligible for the STAR exemption, and not doing the exemptions anymore, they're doing STAR credits, which mean you get a check. So the STAR exemption that you saved on your taxes, it got a reduction. They've changed it over to STAR credits, so now they send you a check instead.
Are we just concerned about their eligibility? not
Yes,
how they-
yes, but we don't see it over here locally. So she's calling to the county to say, if I call you up and say, is this homeowner eligible, you know, are they eligible for the STAR exemption? Will they give us that information readily? Because what I'm trying to avoid is people having to submit their financial statements to us. If they've submitted them to the county so that they can take advantage of the STAR exemption, it's on them to then take advantage and submit the paperwork that they need. And I want to put less of a burden on our committee or someone else internally in having resident financial information in-house. So that's the only hiccup on this. Otherwise, we'll have to come up with, a slightly different method. But I wanted to deal with the overall concept before we go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a question, and I think Gordon, you said you had a comment too?
There's no asterisk on this item, so
That's right, it's a
duly noticed. So if we're gonna be mandating installation of IAC systems upon the transfer of the property, and then have a means tested subsidy for some people, then why not eliminate all the exclusions in the current draft law? For example, if parents are selling a house to the child or closest family and so forth, why not then eliminate those exemptions and provide funding so the more AI systems get installed?
It's a good question, but one of the concerns is also, we're gonna increase the flow of this. How much are we gonna increase the flow and how much money is available? I don't know, it's a good question.
Because right now we have a situation where we have more money in WQI than applicants for the systems, right? So that's the problem, putting more systems in the ground. There's enough money. Particularly if this additional sales.
That's today, and, we're doing outreach and we're hopefully gonna pass this law, which will trigger more systems in the ground.
So like if we're considering subsidizing, means tested, then I would just eliminate all the exemptions from the law and then provide subsidy.
It's a good comment.
Did you raise your hand before, Gordon, or?
I'm sorry?
Did you raise your hand before? I wasn't sure if I saw a hand go up and the podium is in the way.
I could respond if I could.
On this topic?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's,
We talked this in 2016 when that legislation was passed, okay? We're sort of still ad-libbing in terms of how the thing works, okay? But remember, we always compare ourselves to other areas. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, they have loan programs, they're not grants, okay? And if we did a loan program, you wouldn't have to worry about transfer of homes because the units will already be in there. But if you just did the math on 40,000 on a 20-year loan at zero interest, okay, it's $166 a month, okay? And what happens at the end of the loan, you get that money back so you can spend it on other water quality issues here in the island. So I think that's something you should just take a look at. I'm not suggesting that's the way to go, but when I look at it, I'm looking at how other communities do it. And they don't have loan programs. Here, we're giving money and we don't have people participating. But if we did something where it was a mandate and we put a loan program together, okay, I mean, is $166 over 20 years, is that a usable number? Is that something that people can afford? Even, I'm just asking the question, but it's something to take a look at because, at some given point, you may not have it, but I like the idea of the money coming back in so we can encourage other water quality improvements. We held the WQIP money, and remember one time we put a cap of 100,000 on the number of units, okay? And the water problem is not going away, so I think we really should take a look at it. What happens if we do run out of money? Then what happens to those people? And I'm just saying maybe it's time to just take a real fresh look at it and look at it. Listen, I know the problem. We're talking about young people, housing, how do we encourage people to live here? But when you put it down into those kind of numbers, can't forget that there is some responsibility. Do we want people drinking, do people who buy houses here, is it okay for them to drink bad water? I mean, what more can we do? I mean, you would think they would be anxious to get into the program and do it if their water is bad, okay? But it's just a thought. I think you're on the right track. I think maybe you should just take a look at it a little deeper and see where it is.
No,
You gotta understand, the law specifically allows you to voluntarily use up to 20% of CPF total funds. You don't have to, but you can use up to 20% of the total CPF funds. Now, if you're like Riverhead and you have no money, there's no money for IA systems in the CPF fund because they used all their money. So I think, you gotta take that into consideration with the exemptions, taking them completely out. So just think about that.
it slows the pace until we better understand. Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
I just have one comment about the loan.
Can you come up Yeah, just in case the mic, so people in Zoom and Channel 22 will be able to hear.
This is Betty Bishop again. We on the board have thought about loan programs, and we do have an income incentive, which some people kind of shy away from it, even though they can get it because of the stigma of the whole thing. Not that this would happen if everything was a loan, but it's who controls this loan program? And do we have to hire someone to manage this particular thing? I mean, like I said, this is the kind of question we've discussed. I think it is a good suggestion, but those are the kind of questions we have.
No, it's a very good suggestion. Glad you guys are considering it. That's a whole nother level of complexity to the problem and who's gonna manage it. Not only the money going out, but the money coming back. So, but it's something we should look into. It's gonna take some time to figure it out and get comfortable with it. And this is something we can do now. So,
Anyone else before, someone up, I was gonna say, anyone else before we leave this topic? So anyone in Zoom, please raise your hand.
Program could work. I mean, it would take political will to make it a mandated across the board thing, and, the administration of it, but he says, but of course, that alone is not gonna fix the water problem. I mean, there's so many components of fixing water issues, that's just one of them. So we need to think about other projects that may come up as well, so.
So if there's no one else, we will move on to the next topic. And this one, I've gotten like emails and phone calls and, grocery store conversations about two topics. And so I put it under the category of nuisance noise. And so it's not legislation. Oh, we gotta get Meg back here.
oh yeah, we need
I
that.
forgot about it. Sorry, Meg. Come back.
Sure. Big standing desk.
Everyone else just left. Everyone else left quite a while to come back.
We're not done today.
All right, that's fair.
Just waiting for Benjamin to come back, but I had started to say that I put this on the agenda because I've gotten some emails, phone calls, stopped at the grocery store kind of conversations about leaf blowers and construction hours. So I kind of put it under a nuisance noise before I talk further away and heard that part, so.
Sounds good.
Okay. So this is not legislation that we have before us, so it's open to public discussion as well. But the first topic that's come up is leaf blowers, just the noise that's created. And some of the complaints are why can't we have, electric leaf blowers only as opposed to gas powered ones? Others have to do with days and times of the noise. So I don't see anyone who specifically reached out on Zoom on the audience. But just whether or not this is something that we want to sort of look into. The last time the town board started to discuss leaf blowers a little bit, the technology just wasn't there yet for commercial use. And so someone who's running a business, this could be a very difficult thing to implement. But I haven't looked into it. So, but you, Jan, you're familiar with the technology?
Yeah, I mean, fairly familiar with this. I mean, basically, it's nowhere near to be ready, because if you have a leaf blower, a small tank of gas can operate for hours. Okay? If you put battery operated leaf blower, it would be 20 minutes, what I mean? Got 3 acres. I guess
It's a lot more powerful.
I got 3 acres of, lots of old oaks. And it takes 2 days to blow up the leaves in the fall. I mean, if I was doing this with electric blowers, I don't know what would it cost and how long would it take. It's just not ready, you know what I mean? So I think one of the eastern towns passed this electric blower law.
Just on that, East Hampton, Southampton both have it, and then the villages of North Haven, village of Southampton, I believe the village of East Hampton, but I gotta check on that, so.
Is it hours or
It's
forbid, no use of gas?
It's seasonal, so they don't want it happening between May 20th and September 20th. You can't use gas power, but, well, other time, and then, because they put it in their noise code. And then, so seasonally between May 20th and September 20th, absolutely no, it's a complete ban. Outside of that, there's certain days and times that you can use gas power.
Yeah, I mean, for fall cleanup, it's totally impractical. You just cannot do it, forget it. I mean.
Yeah, you can't,
And
couldn't do it at my house, I tried.
yeah, so maybe East Hampton, okay. It's sort of like mandating by 2030 that, everybody switches to EVs, okay? It's just not gonna happen. Technology's not there.
And you can,
It's great.
you can do Memorial Day to Labor Day, however you want to handle it, but I think what they're trying to do is maintain.
That was at the 3 towns that you mentioned,
Yeah, so East Hampton Town.
or there's differences
Town.
between them?
No, they're pretty much modeled the same way. Seasonally, and then allow it on the off-season. But again, they're just trying to maintain the quality of life during the precious time of the summer season.
What are the hours that we use now in terms of construction?
We don't have any.
You don't.
We don't have it.
Which
I
is
mean, I think,
the second half of this.
yeah,
You kind of do.
Well, we have a noise ordinance.
You have unreasonable noise statute,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
left up to the officer's discretion.
So if someone's
I mean, I would look
doing
at hours
construction
of,
at 5 in the morning, they'll get a citation for being unreasonable.
But it's also next to impossible to enforce. Like the officer could obviously say something, and if there's voluntary compliance, that's fine. But if a ticket's issued and I have to go in front of a judge, unreasonable noise is too amorphous to enforce. So like we do have, decibel for amplified noise, decibel that you can't exceed from the lot line, that's enforceable, but, so I think we have to tweak our noise ordinance if you want to take on something like this.
Well,
Should we start there?
Well, no, I was thinking more, like, I put this together with construction hours, because when we have, special permits or, something that someone has come before us, not just getting a regular building permit that they don't need, they just go to the building department, they're good to go. They don't have the same constraints or restrictions that we have put on some of the larger projects. So do we want to look at something like that, like to actually put in code, no construction before 7 AM, 8 AM, no construction past a certain hour, not on Sundays.
You're saying across the board or just in connection with a special
No,
permit?
across the board, because we put it into specific applications, but why just them? Why not everybody? So it's just something that's come up at times and, some complaints where, it's early in the morning and suddenly the noise, whatever is going on is starting. So do we want to look at something like that? So it's more hours and not thing. Come on.
That's construction.
So I don't like implementing the laws, I can't stand it. And this goes back to, some people have complained about it. So my question would be, what is the volume of complaints that are registered to the police department? Instead of just 2 or 3 emails that create a new law. I'm just not in favor of laws and blocking out Sundays and stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous for a guy that's trying to live on Shelter Island and pay his mortgage. His day off is Sunday, now he can't mow his own lawn. So there's a lot to it. I don't think it really is a problem. There's a handful of people that don't like the noise. It's no quieter in New York City from where a lot of these people are from, but yet they come out here and they want dead quiet. We have to mow, we have to clean up, we have to work out here. It's my feelings.
I wasn't suggesting the homeowners couldn't mow on Sundays.
It just trickles down.
Yeah, you'll get noise complaints because of it.
Yeah. Stella?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. 2 comments. First of all, I believe the Village of Greenport just instituted a ban for the gas leaf blowers. And it's along the lines that Stephen outlined, where it's more seasonal in terms of what can be done when and using what type of equipment. The other comment is in the Heights, as some of you already know, we do have a restriction on when landscaping noise and construction noise can occur. And it's, obviously it's not in the code, it's not easy to enforce. But if it's with a, paid contractor, either a landscaper or someone in the building trades, it's really 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. And then you can do non-noise generating construction on a Saturday, but no Sunday or legal holiday. So I just throw that out as a template. Typically people, when these noise restrictions are breached, they don't call the town because again, it's not in the code right now. So it's, we try to moral suasion. And there isn't a restriction if you are the homeowner. To your point, Amber, if you're the homeowner and you have to mow your lawn or do whatever you need to do on a weekend, you're able to do that. So just wanted to share.
Thank you.
Stella, could you share that policy with the board and Stephen so we can have a look at it?
Oh, yeah, happy to.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Speaking a lot today, but
Floodgates are open.
okay, so if we're on the subject of noise, I would suggest another area to look at is to close the gap between the noise policy in a business zone and residential zone. So for example, the business operating in a B zone cannot have amplified music outside, whereas in a residential zone, there is a limit of people can have amplified music outside, but they are limited to 50 decibels, okay, which is a quiet conversation on the border of their property or beyond, okay? And so there are some businesses, unscrupulous businesses, which abuse this policy, the businesses that operate in residential zone. And there's one business that I have personally problems with. I'm not gonna use the name right now, but I think no. That cops get called during the weddings
literally every weekend in spring and fall. Okay, 8 weekends, 8 weddings in the fall last year, 4 weekends so far, 4 weddings so far in June. Okay, and cops literally get called every wedding because the business just plays music outside. Okay, blasting. I mean, you can hear it a mile away. Okay, and the enforcement of this is very problematic because the cops show up with a great delay after being called, and sometimes they detect violation with their sophisticated meter and 3 days of police training. Sometimes they don't, and so forth, and it's just very inconsistent. And why should the business operating in residential zone, pre-existing non-performing business, had an easier situation than the business operating in a business zone? The same restaurant, okay, so a similar restaurant. So that rule for the residential zone, the noise ordinance, was designed for residents. Okay, somebody has a garden party, loud conversation, radio playing, and so forth. But here we're having businesses which have weddings, okay, every Saturday, blasting amplified music outside. Okay, if they were located in a business zone, they wouldn't be able to do it. It's not permitted. But if they are a residential zone, they are abusing the rule which was designed for the residents. So I would suggest that the town looks into closing that loophole and basically saying, yes, 50 dB, 50 decibels, that's for residents. For business, pre-existing business operating in residential zone, they have the same rule as in B zone. In other words, no amplified music outside.
There's no distinction in the noise code between commercial and residential. It's all just 50 dB across the board, whether you're a business or a residence.
Correct.
Right, that's what exists now.
That's what exists right now, and
Yeah.
this is what is being abused.
So you want us to add more restriction on businesses than residents?
I would like the businesses operating as pre-existing businesses in a residential zone to have the same noise restriction as businesses operating in a business zone.
They do, because the noise code is the same for every zone. It's
That's not
50
my
dB across the
No,
board.
No, it is, she's accurate.
I'm
I
reading
was gonna
it.
say, I
Yeah.
didn't refresh on this because I wasn't going to the noise ordinance today. I was talking more about leaf blowers and
Yes.
construction.
Yeah.
So I
I'm just
didn't refresh.
suggesting new area to look at. My understanding was that businesses operating in a B zone cannot have amplified music outside. Is that not correct?
That's not
It's
correct.
not correct.
Well, then it should be, that's what should be made, okay, because this is a nuisance for residents who are the neighbors of businesses.
It's that you can't have amplified sound that exceeds the 50 decibels.
Okay,
For
which-
anybody, no matter
which
whether you're a
zone?
business or a resident.
It's
It's in
not-
all zones. It covers all zones.
Yeah.
Chapter
Well, then
92.
I suggest that you,
Dash five.
the town book looks into it and basically not permit amplified music outside for businesses, whether operating in B zone or any of the residential zones, okay? Because then enforcement is very straightforward. If you have amplified music outside, which basically disturbs peace for everybody around, then you get citation immediately. Okay, there's no 50 dB. And police, it's not good in enforcing. And Chief Reed will tell you himself and the cops that they don't like enforcing it because it's difficult to enforce, blah, 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 and so forth.
Comment? Looks like Chief unmuted.
Yeah,
I'm not
Chief,
necessarily looking to comment. I'm not in agreement with most of what Jan has described. It's largely inaccurate regarding the police response. His understanding of the noise ordinance is not completely fair and or accurate. But I think I would further discussion with any board members at a future. Amber, I don't want to belabor the noise, the amplified music section with what you're proposing.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, that wasn't amplified noise, the noise ordinance wasn't the topic for today.
Right, but the only thing that I could add to that is we do have the unreasonable section. I know our town attorney has articulated just recently that he feels it may not be enforceable. It has largely worked for us. If somebody's doing construction at 6 a.m., we talk to them, they stop until a reasonable hour. Same thing with leaf blowers. I'm not sure it's at the problem level that needs to be addressed at this point, based on police calls. It's something that we have two tools. One is unreasonable, one is 50 decibels, and those tools have been working for us, largely. And most people, we live in a great community where people respect law enforcement and look to comply with the code. So I feel that that unreasonable section for construction and leaf blowers is easily applied.
No, and I agree with the chief as far as, you know, voluntary compliance. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Pam?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'd just like to say there are communities that allow lawn mowing at 7 a.m., but they don't allow the blowers to go until 8. I mean, it's another option, and I have to sympathize with the landscapers when we have weather events and they have 60 houses on their accounts that they need to cut the grass. I really can sympathize that they think they should be able to catch up on a Sunday. I don't know that they should be able to catch up on a Sunday, but Saturdays would be fine. And as far as construction noise, I think that too. I mean, I think construction noise, if they're not using any kind of saws or nailers, you know, power nailers or something, but they're just trying to get some wood together, perhaps they could start at 7. And then if they need to use their saws, they start up at 8 o'clock. I've seen it commonly done. I've been in landscaping for a long time, and as a matter of fact, got pulled off of a job once because I didn't realize that town had an ordinance. And they said, hey, no, use nothing with gas. I said, no, we're just using shovels. And I got to proceed with the job. But there are other places to look at and give it consideration, because it is difficult in the landscaping business that if there are weather events that continue for a few days, these guys are really falling behind in their work. And the other comment on that I'll say is that I know in Nassau County, they tried to put in a ban on the gas blowers, and honestly, they just don't work, and made them use electric, and the electric blowers simply don't have the power as the gas do. And I don't know if you'd want to add weed whackers into the mix and say, maybe you can't weed whack until 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just something to consider. But I think we need to be fair to the guys who run landscaping businesses and guys who are trying to complete constructions, and people should show more patience. And perhaps Sunday would be the only day that you might want to restrict any kind of activity as such. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, I was gonna say, do we, you know, what do we want to do with this? I brought it to the table because, you know, getting some comments here and there over the past few months, and just wanted to see whether or not this is something we want to pick up.
I put a lot of weight in what Chief Reed said, which is.
He doesn't have the volume.
Yeah. Not sure it's.
I think we should, I'm gonna go with him. You know, we don't have the volume of complaints. So we're gonna try to pick up something that.
Yeah, I mean, just periodically, I think it's good for the town board, and for this kind of discussion to take place so that people can understand the pros and the cons.
No, I think it's good, Amber.
Yeah.
And after this discussion, people can come in next Tuesday or whatever and talk if they have an issue, you know?
Yeah.
Don't want to carry it forward, whatever that.
I think we have enough on our plate.
Yes, yeah. Just today was a lighter agenda, so it's like, all right, let's just look and see, like, and just, you know, periodically pick up, you know, things like this, just so, like, we do consider these things, think through what's existing, like listening to comments, so.
Next item should be fast, because there was a quiet week last week.
Yeah, who wants to start with board member reports?
Went to Taylor's Island, that was this morning.
Yes, yeah, I've got that. I was just looking, I sometimes highlight what I want to say. Okay, so Taylor's Island met this morning, they went through their usual business. I think one of the things to just kudos to them is it's a much different committee than other town committees. They really take care of the property. Like, members are out there mowing and doing landscaping and doing minor repairs and cleaning, and it saves the town a lot of money and keeps the property in the best condition.
They did their own repairs.
Yeah, I mean, there, different, bigger projects do get funded, but I just, like, it's a really special group of people, and I was thinking about that as I was sitting in the meeting this morning. There is going to be a fundraiser for Taylor's Island Foundation on August 15th. It's a Thursday, from 4 to 6 p.m. at 1901 Grill. So just putting that out there so people can put that on their calendars. And the Community Preservation Committee Advisory Board met yesterday. Some of what Gordon spoke about earlier was discussed early on. They're working on the volunteer stewardship plan for the White property. It's almost ready to present, so we should be seeing that in the next few weeks. They're also just looking at some of the other stewardship plans to update. They're starting to work on the 2025 budget so that they have a chart that the various members will walk through the properties that they're assigned to just figure out what kind of stewardship and what kind of budget they think is going to be needed for 2025.
Can I piggyback on that? The issue that as been in existence, been brought up, Tim Patel spoke to it, is the beech tree. And the issue of the beech trees dying, that they can't be saved. And the evidence is very prevalent. If you drive down Manhasset Road into Deering Harbor, if you're on the Nostrand Parkway, near the camp, driving through the forested areas, there's a lot of daylight coming through the trees. They're losing their canopy and they're dying, and nothing can be done. And it's going to be an issue on CPF property, possibly what to do with these trees. It is a hardwood. Like, can it be milled? It's a difficult issue, really is. The forests are dense with these beech trees. It's going to be an issue. That's also, there was discussion about that, Amber. No.
It was on the other side of my piece of paper.
Oh, sorry.
Good, glad you caught it. Also, I just want to remind people, I'm just double checking the date for the blood drive. It's next Friday, and just want to keep it forefront. Next Friday, which is the 19th, from 12 to 6 p.m. over at the community center, the upstairs in the Legion. I feel like, was there something else, Christina, that you were like?
Well, we've got the fireworks this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So be prepared for one-way roads on the way down to Shore Beach. The fireworks are Saturday, the 13th. They'll blast off around 9:15. There's parking on the golf course like there always has been in the past. People tend to make a day of it down at the beach. So when you're driving in that area, just be cautious and careful because there'll be a lot of people walking around, and four-way stop between New York Avenue and West Neck gets very busy. And so does the whole area down by the beach and some of the roads leading to the beach. So just be careful. Be mindful of people walking and biking. Let's see, what else do we have going on? There is, also Saturday the 13th, the Monanic Creek Keepers have a meeting. So if you're interested in learning more about Monanic Creek, there's a meeting. You can reach out to Alice or Linda. I think it might be on the town website through WAC. Monanic Creek Keepers.
Sure.
We also have we have our wetlands code discussion on Thursday, just to go over the adjustments. That's about it, that's all I have. Green Expo is gonna be August 24th from 11 to 3, same time as the craft fair. So if you're part of a town committee or organization or group and you'd like to participate in that, and put up a table to have an opportunity to talk with the public, reach out to Tim Pertel. He's on the Green Options Committee and his email address is on the webpage. Yeah, so it's just fun. It's a good way to interact with the community, let them know what we have going on.
I remember the one thing I was forgetting, Fresh Pond is having their annual cleanup July 16th and 17th. The lily pads grow, but then it creates some harmful algal blooms, so they go in and clear out some of that. So that'll be posted on the website for those who want to volunteer for that. And then there's also a bereavement group that is starting up. Just get the details on that. Every summer, we have people from the Health and Wellness Alliance who do it. It's going to be held this year at the Senior Center on Fridays for 6 sessions, starting this Friday, 4:15 to 6:15 p.m. So it'll be 6 sessions over the course. And in talking to people who have attended, they said it's been really helpful. I actually wished I'd learned about it 2 years ago. I only found out about it after it had stopped, but everybody has said it's worthwhile. So that's another one on the town website as well. Good? Okay. We need a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of an employee.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.